is Rebecca Schissel-Marshall with Whole Body Upgrade, a podcast to help you get unstuck, feel better, and have more energy. Let's get started. Hello, my friends. I'm here today, and I'm so glad to be here. I want to acknowledge that I'm recording this on the land of the Creek and the Cherokee in what is now known as Athens, Georgia. I want to teach you a little bit today about how to build a strong foundation of health and wellness. It seems to be a big conversation in the news right now about immunity, mostly because of COVID. And we've been talking in the last few episodes about how systems and paradigms that I see in the world, in our kind of quote unquote normal world, are crumbling and falling apart. So this episode is all about building something new. Many people have pieces and parts of wellness, and I'd like to lay it out in a way to make it a strong foundation for your life. For me, well-being or wellness is the basis of all other aspects of my life, and this centered wellness framework that I've been talking to you about is a way to use to think about how we can be well in a more holistic way. So for most people, they think about health, they tend to pigeonhole it into just how the body is doing. And when that happens, if they're trying to change something with the body, they run into a lot of problems. Carrying out the changes or actions that they want to take becomes more challenging if they want to be healthy. And by healthy, as I mentioned, I mean holistically healthy. What some people really refer to as this idea of well in all aspects of our lives, or this well-being. To build a healthy foundation, I'm actually going to not start with the body. It's the opposite of what most people do, and I just want to explain a little bit about this. What I see with my clients and the groups that I teach is if you focus on making change through the physical body first, there's usually a lot of resistance. And part of that is because there's this tendency to slip into do's and don't categories, which feels very constrictive to a lot of people. And then that inner rebellion comes up. Many people rebel with it, being told what to do. And when you see people either not being able to start, I refuse to give up sugar, or I refuse to give up dairy, because there's the deep rebellion to not wanting to give up the thing that gives them pleasure in their life. Or I see clients where they start off really strong. I'm doing all the things, I'm checking all the boxes. But when they can't do it perfectly, because it's usually a lot, then they tend to lose their momentum. It falls to the wayside and they give up. So using the centered wellness framework, I'm going to show you how you can make change, lasting, compassionate change, just using these parts of it. We'll go through building a strong foundation of wellness for yourself. The first foundational piece is a connection to yourself. And this seems very basic, and many of you might brush right past it and kind of skip over it. But my encouragement is not to gloss over this part or assume that you've already done it. Building a connection with yourself includes several pieces, and first and foremost, the one that I think is most important is listening. So listening is not just what we think of, which is usually listening to other people, but I think of it in terms of listening to yourself, listening to the sensations that you have in the body, when they arise and what they may be telling you, the emotions that may arise, the thoughts that you have in your head, and listening to the energy. Do you have a particular feeling or sensation? Listening to that. So I'm using this as a multimodal approach. So this skill is really just paying attention in the moment without judgment, which is a very basic explanation for mindfulness. But it's mindfulness about not just what's going on externally, but very specifically what's happening internally. And that listening piece, this paying attention, is knowing what's going on and mentoring yourself when things become hard or challenging. So it's listening to what's happening, but then also showing up for yourself, connecting with yourself, being able to compassionately hold your own hand and do those challenging things that matter to you. This is a skill and a skill set that will serve you for building resilience, for decreasing stress, and for allowing you to do courageous things in your life, because you'll show up for yourself. You'll get an amazing practice for that because you keep showing up over and over again. All of these pieces actually help you on not only that emotional level, but also the physiological level, decreasing cortisol in your body, increasing your immune system function, which, as we've talked about, is quite important in the time of COVID. The second foundational piece is exploring the options. You've been building this connection with yourself then and listening on various levels, listening to what is there and what's needed. And this second piece, exploring the options, is really seeing that there may be other possibilities than what your mind has been telling you. Often the mind has very specific beliefs and thoughts. And you may have noticed as you were listening that the thoughts that show up, that there may be emotions that connect with them. Often the thoughts precede the emotions that we feel in the body. And maybe as you notice these thoughts and the beliefs maybe you notice that there's something that you want to change. There's something that you want to be different in your life. And many times this requires changing the thoughts that are there. So if you were listening, as you notice, as you go through the listening piece, the thoughts that you think may be that you're tired of being sick, that nothing's working, maybe you're over this pandemic. My question for you, and this is part of the exploring, is, well, what do you want to feel? Do you want to feel hope or peace, or do you want to feel energized? What thoughts would you need to feel hopeful, to feel peaceful and energetic? So it's about exploring a thought, finding a thought that feels better in the body. So the thought that we said before, that I'm tired of being sick, right? It probably feels pretty heavy in the body. So what if there's a thought that actually feels lighter, that feels better in the physical sensation, and allows you to believe and explore who you are and what you want to be? If I want to have more energy, or if I want to have a better immune system, I could be thinking, I am willing to care for myself. I can do these hard things. So this often occurs when, my body is like, I really want some sugar because I'm tired. And what I tell myself is often, yeah, but I really want to feel better. What I really need is rest. The final aspect of building a healthy foundation is then this taking action to make the change. So the first two were much more internal processes, and this is something you would do in your life that makes change or creates what you want to have happen. So without working specifically on those first two, that's where we can run into trouble, because then it doesn't have the groundedness to make the change that we want to make. So for this episode on taking action, I'm going to focus very specifically on food, because I'm thinking about many of us during this pandemic and sheltering in place. Food has probably been an emotional buffer for us, as something that we've turned to when things are challenging. So I'm going to provide some specific suggestions about change, specifically around inflammation, because there's so much inflammation due to the standard American diet, which again blocks immunity and creates emotional disruption. So eating more sugar can cause a greater amount of anxiety and depression. And then it leads to us not being able to handle the more stressful situations. So it's this vicious cycle that we see, this circle of wanting to increase resilience and decrease stress. But yet, if we're doing something that doesn't replenish us, that doesn't build that strong foundation, then we may be not able to create what we want. For this piece of foundation building for wellness and well-being, I want to talk to you a little bit about what some things are that could actually build your immunity by decreasing inflammation. So some of the things that you can add in if you don't already have them are drinking green or white tea. You could be eating more fresh roots like ginger and turmeric, or a fresh herb like basil. All of those are really helpful in digestion. Turmeric is really helpful in a lot of different ways in terms of anti-inflammatory as well. Shiitake mushrooms are another great way of boosting the immune system. Making sure that you get plenty of fiber, so beans and legumes are really helpful. Eating a healthy fat with every meal, like extra virgin olive oil or coconut oil or avocados, or it could be walnuts or hemp seeds or flax seeds. Lots of options there. Making sure that you eat enough raw or cooked veggies. The recommendation is typically 9 fruits and veggies a day, and typically Americans don't meet that. We have in our heads that it's supposed to be 4 or 5, but really 9 is the recommended daily allowance. So especially those leafy greens like broccoli or spinach or kale. Also making sure to include organic berries like strawberries and raspberries and blueberries and blackberries. Those are all really high in antioxidants and can help decrease inflammation. And also including things in your diet like probiotics or fermented foods. Those can be really helpful. And the final one I'm just going to add there is just drinking a lot of water. For every pound that you weigh, at least a half an ounce of water, all the way up to 1 ounce of water per pound. So that's a really great measure to use. There used to be a measure of 8-ounce glasses a day, but that depends on how much you weigh. There are also things to avoid to help with decrease inflammation. And I know many of my clients are like, but really, do I have to? And the answer is, you get to choose. Alcohol is one of them. And that can be something that creates mind numbing, that we turn to that so that we don't have to feel our emotions. Sugars or artificial sweeteners, hydrogenated oils or fried foods, vegetable oils like canola oil, corn oil, safflower, and palm oil are all ones that lead to inflammation. Animal products, meat and dairy, are also inflammatory for the body. And having any really refined carbs, breads and crackers and that sort of thing can be very inflammatory. For some individuals, gluten is also inflammatory. So it's really important to take into account these different possibilities. And if you have a food allergy, those are going to be inflammatory. Even if the food itself may not be inflammatory, they may show up as inflammatory to your body. So that's just some suggestions. It's not an exhaustive list of what can be anti-inflammatory or how to decrease inflammation. These are some ideas to get you started. So if you wanted to create change through food, I always tell my students that food is medicine, that you can begin in that taking action with, well, what do I want to create? If you're having a lot of pain in your body, you may have a higher level of inflammation. Those are some of the pieces. The other piece might be sleep. That can help decrease inflammation the more sleep that you have. Moving your body can also help decrease inflammation. So it's honoring yourself in a way that feels good to you and is nurturing for your body. Getting good sleep, moving your body with exercise. Those are ways that we can show up for ourselves and nurture ourselves. It's like taking care of ourselves again. And you can ask yourself this simple question: what does the body need today? How can I take care of this body? So those are the 3 pieces: connection to yourself, exploring the options, and taking actions. Those are the 3 pieces of creating a healthy foundation. I focus specifically on food for this last taking action portion, but it could be taking action in a variety of areas. It could be taking action for your purpose or in your business. There are so many other areas that this applies to your life, and the process remains the same. Connecting to yourself, exploring the options, and taking action. I invite you to try these 3 steps in your life as you build a new foundation. And let me know how it goes. All right, friends. Thank you so much for listening today, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Whole Body Upgrade. If you'd like to learn more about working with me, you can visit me on Facebook or Instagram or on my website, CenteredYou, that's CenteredYou.com. See you on the next episode of Whole Body Upgrade.